Welcome back. It is your feel-good breakfast show. It is Expresso right here on SABC3. Thanks so much for coming through on the 29th of Jan and joining us. Now it's time to talk about health, right? The Global Initiative for Asthma, GINA, have reported that South Africa had the world's fourth highest asthma death rates among 5 to 35-year-olds. And it is said that of the estimated 3.9 million South Africans with asthma, 1.5% of them die of this condition every year. Now, here to help us unpack the cause and characteristics of this condition is our very trusted medical professional, Dr. Darren Green.
Thank you. Morning.
Good morning.
Always
good
to
see you.
Doc. I was saying now that I'm always so conflicted. I know how to say it, asthma, but the spelling, when I have to read it, looks weird and it just boggles my brain a little bit. Weird. It's not asthma, it's asthma. But what is, by medical definition, asthma?
Well, asthma is a predisposition to go into spasm. So the muscles that line the airway, we call the bronchus, the trachea and the bronchioles. Basically, it's the ability of the body around those bronchioles. There's muscle layers in the bronchioles, which are the smaller airways, to go into spasm. And that can be triggered by various things, and you have then a predisposition to go into spasm and tighten that airway more likely than other people.
How realistic is that picture in terms of what it looks like on the left and how small it could shrink during that spasm?
Absolutely. That's why the sounds you hear are that typical wheeze. You know that...
Yes.
That's it, because the airway narrows completely, and then the air is basically, you can't expire. You can't breathe out. You try and squeeze it past that narrow airway. So if you don't relieve that muscle that's constricted in spasm, then you're going to obviously surmise.
Now, you mentioned the bronchiole, which sounds like bronchitis. Is there a relationship or any similarities between bronchitis and asthma?
Great question. So bronchitis is just inflammation of the bronchi, which are the bigger airways.
All right.
Bronchiolitis is the inflammation of the smaller airways. So in asthma, the mechanism at play is bronchospasm, but also increased mucus production in the smaller airways called the bronchioles.
Let's talk about the different causes then of asthma.
Yes, so basically the triggers could be multiple. Sometimes you have basically genetically inherited asthma. Typically asthma starts in childhood, like 1 out of 10 children might have asthma and 1 out of 20 adults. That's how common it actually is. So in terms of the triggers, a lot of them are triggered by things like allergens and pollutants, where you just have a hyperreactive system, like people that have allergies. You're just hypersensitive to certain environmental triggers or chemical irritants. And then, of course, you get a thing called exercise-induced asthma as well, where exercise actually represents an undertreated or improperly treated pure asthma.
Oh, wow. Now, we've had recent fires going around here, as you know. Could these trigger or cause asthma? What's the story there? Because, I mean...
Absolutely. So you've got smoke inhalation, which is a noxious fume irritant that irritates the airway. So things like cold, things like chemicals, things like, obviously, environmental pollens, them spraying the vineyards, all that kind of thing in our basin here in the Western Cape, all can trigger the bronchospasm reaction that I've described earlier on. So even walking in a supermarket next to a cold fridge, when you have a little cold, an early flu, if you're an asthmatic, it tends to affect the airways a lot quicker and a lot more seriously if you approach cold. That's why at nighttime, people with asthma cough more than in the daytime.
Wow. Oh, wow, that's interesting.
So much for us to take in and learn about asthma, and we're going to be doing so very shortly as we continue with our Medical Tuesday chat with Dr. Darren Green. Give us a call on 021-430-9881 with your questions or your comments. We'd love to hear from you. All right, we're back again with Dr. Darren Green. Our numbers 021-430-9881. A conversation today prompted by the fact that the Global Initiative for Asthma has quoted South Africa as the fourth highest country with asthma deaths in the world.
That's shocking.
Among 5 to 35-year-olds. So lots for us to understand. And during the break, we were chatting to Dr. Darren Green. One question that sparked a myriad of answers and a lot of conversation, and that is, what do you do when someone has an asthma attack? So let's tackle the question from both sides. You are the person suffering from the asthma attack, and you're the person looking at somebody, watching somebody suffering an asthma attack.
I think there are a few things. The first thing I think to alert the public of is the global sign for choking is that. So if someone's choking and they've got a piece of food or bread or whatever stuck down, choking sign is that. You cross your hands, and you know that's the sign.
Yeah.
So if you are experiencing that in a restaurant or next to a field or anywhere, that's the sign. So people know then they need to either give you back slaps or a Heimlich maneuver.
Yes.
That's obstruction. But when it comes to asthma, you need to obviously indicate that you're struggling to breathe.
Yeah.
So because they have a cough, they have a wheeze, which can progress to become so restrictive due to the bronchospasm that they can often inhale, but they can't get air out. So the amount of carbon dioxide that builds up in the body causes you to eventually then just pass out.
Yeah. How do you help?
So the only thing that helps is to relieve that bronchospasm. And that means giving medication that dilates the airways.
Yes.
This is in the emergency, in the attack. So you, as the person having the attack, first thing is if you start feeling the wheeze and an irritable airway that's starting to feel itchy and irritated, do something about it. Don't wait until it becomes really severe, because you have access, often we have access within 5 to 10 minutes to actually either find out, does anyone have a pump, anyone close by, a teacher in the school, for example, or next to the rugby field or wherever. Secondly, obviously, keep calm, don't use more energy, because then you need to breathe more.
Yes.
So if you exercise and you start panicking, you hyperventilate, and you just build up carbon dioxide quicker.
So relax.
Relax, sit them down, calm them down. They often pin themselves up like a tripod with accessory muscle activation to protect the airway, because the airway feels like it's closing.
Collapsing,
Yes.
You know, like you're suffocating. And then you'll see them, their eyes become big. They obviously start posturing, putting the neck up.
Yeah.
To try and open up
move
the airway.
Thinking that that's going to relieve and help. And the only thing that helps is actually relieving the bronchospasm that you've got with the muscle that's in spasm, as I've explained. So to do that, you need to use the immediate reliever pump, which dilates the bronchus and obviously works on that muscle in the bronchioles to relax it. And there's an example of the asthma pump. Often they've got a blue lid.
Okay.
Because the blue lid often is for immediate relief now, and that's often a clue to someone that's out there that doesn't know what to do. So some companies have already started only putting one color lid on the device, which is quite easy. But the mainstay of someone that has poorly controlled asthma is to prevent attacks happening. And to do that, you need to be compliant with your preventative pump or medication, which works a long time beforehand.
Well, we've got lots more with Dr. Darren Green, lots to learn here on your Feel Good Breakfast show. If you've got any questions for the doctor, 021-4309-881, give us a call and he'll be here to answer your questions, because there's more coming up after this.
It's my Feel Good Breakfast Show.
Welcome back. It's your Feel Good Breakfast show. We're live, large and in charge. It's a Tuesday morning, and as always, so good to have your company. Dr. Darren Green is on the couch answering questions about asthma, and that's what we're focusing on. And 021-4309-881 is the number for you to dial. Now, we've come to understand a lot about asthma in the last two parts of the conversation that we've had. Question. Is it possible to outgrow asthma? As you said, most cases it's detected at a very young age. Is it possible to outgrow it?
So often people don't need medication as they get older. There are lifestyle factors that help with asthma. Things like exercise, monitoring your diet, also monitoring the environment for things that could be triggering it, like your food, the specific foodstuffs associated with allergies, and then the environment. If you manage, obviously, some of your atopia, your sensitivity to the environment, often you don't have the respiratory or the airway complications of it. There's some really good people out there, top class in all their events, at the top of their game. Ray Neertling is an asthmatic, by the way.
No.
Exactly. And he's such a good advocate of being an incredible ambassador for having a normal life with asthma and being so good at what he does.
An extraordinary life.
Wow.
Not only world champion swimmer, but property investor par excellence. He's doing
We've
it
got
too.
a caller on the line. It's Leanne from Johannesburg, and she's got a question for you. Leanne, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Very well,
Good, Leanne. What's your question for the good doctor?
Okay, good doctor. I'm an asthmatic, right? I have the two pumps, right? The one with the blue cap, the one you just explained, and then I have a red one with a grey cap. So using this, obviously now has a long-term consequences, because now I've lost my senses. The one is I can't smell, the other one is I can't taste. Could it be because of the pumps I'm using?
Thank you very much for that question, Leanne. Great
So she
question.
says when she uses a medication, she seems to have lost her sense of taste and smell.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what could be giving, line to that? And the first thing is obviously often there's an association with sinus congestion, blocked nose that goes along with people that have allergies, lots of allergies. So the question is, when your nose is blocked and you have unmanaged things like allergies, for example, you also not taste and not smell as well as you should. So the question is it accompanied by that as well? The second thing that's important is looking obviously at what's in the pump. If she's on a steroid inhaler pump, corticosteroids form part of the mainstay of preventative treatment in asthma, which is what she's on. Obviously, the granules can often be very small and actually land at the back of your throat, etc. And obviously on your vocal cords and affect quite a bit of the anatomy if you don't use it properly. And there are different products, like the fineness of the dust of the inhaler. You could try an alternative medication, definitely.
Yes.
Or even have it delivered with a fine mist by using a nebulizer.
As we saw in
which
that
is
graphic
useful.
earlier on. So she spoke about a red one, or a grey one with a red cap, because we spoke about the blue one, which is
Often that's
in
the blue,
emergency, right?
Yeah.
The blue one's useful for emergencies quite
Yes.
often.
Yeah.
Is the red one the preventative one?
Yeah, so I'd have to see which one it is. Typically, you need to look at what the name of the drug is or what the active ingredient is. And remember that the steroids normally end in ol, like estradiol or, progesterone, cortisol, that kind of thing. So have a look, beta-metazone, all that kind of thing.
Okay.
Cortisone, all the zones, sorry. So have a look at the ingredients. Don't use the color code for your preventer. Ask your doctor, is this the right preventer for me? And often you're associated with things like reflux disease as well, and candida. If you're using a steroid pump chronically, you can have candida, which is a fungal infection, occur as well at the back of the throat and at the top of the airway.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that when you start losing some of your senses, like of taste and smell or anything like that, it's probably time to see a doctor.
Correct.
But we do have this conversation going on with
Absolutely.
Dr. Darren Green, more on the asthma. Give us a call on 021-430-9881 if you've got questions for her. For him, rather. Right now, Zoe she is standing by with the news.
All right,
Okay.
we're back again. Yes, Medical Tuesday chat with Dr. Darren Green. And we have a caller on the line who's dialed 021-430-9881. A very good morning to you.
Good morning. Hello.
Who are we speaking to?
Crystalline.
This is Crystalline. Thanks for the call. What is your comment or your question, Crystalline?
My question to the doctor is, I had childhood asthma and I've outgrown it. And so at 6 years old, and the thing is this, my asthma returned around about 2 years ago because I'm working in an environment where I'm in and out of the fridges. And because I'm working in fridges, and I just wanted to know, can that be a trigger for the return of my asthma?
Great question.
Thank you,
so much,
Crystalline.
Crystalline. Yeah.
Yes, so she might be experiencing bronchospasm. So those muscles are going into spasm in the small airways. And cold is known as a trigger. So even after you've had a cold or a bit of an airway infection, if you go into cold air, you start coughing. If you start talking, by the end of your sentence, you start coughing. So the hyperreactive airway certainly would really respond to that cold air negatively and would go into spasm. Quite important. Interesting to note, when someone's in that spasm, that they struggle to finish sentences. So part of our assessment of an asthma patient when they can't breathe is that they're struggling, they can't even finish a sentence.
Yeah. Let's talk about exercise, because earlier on you mentioned that Rick Neertling suffers from asthma.
And he's quite active.
suffered from asthma. But he's a world
Very
champion
active.
swimmer. He's got gold medals
Yeah.
where he's
Shows that
beaten
you
the
can
best
beat it,
in the
yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how exercise can help you to fight against asthma to the point where you one day not only can hang gold medals around your neck, but you've hopefully outgrown the asthma.
So I think firstly being aware that you have the diagnosis is important. So who has asthma? How much parents know that the children have asthma? If they're having recurrent cough bouts that keep coming and going and struggling recurrently with shortness of breath or tight chest, wheeziness, specifically at night time, chronically, then definitely go and chat to your practitioner about it and let them examine your child. You diagnose asthma by a history, but also by doing what's called a lung function test, where they look at the the resistance of the airways and the vital capacity of the lung, etc., to see whether it's too little for your age norm.
Yeah.
And in terms of what we're speaking about, in terms of exercise and moving it, you must realize that exercise is actually very good for asthma in terms of increasing your lung capacity, the amount of the liters of oxygen and so forth that you can move in and out of the lungs to allow for good exchange in the body. The problem comes in is if you're not managing the underlying condition, the asthma properly, then you can't exercise properly.
Yeah.
So you're going to go into a wheezing state all the time and you can never finish your exercise. So managing your asthma first and then exercising improves it that you might even need less and less medication.
Yeah.
If you start on asthma medication and these pumps, it certainly doesn't mean you're going to need them for the rest of your life.
Okay.
Yeah.
It can change, as I've mentioned, according to your age and obviously other factors as well.
Yeah.
So the preventer pump is very, very important for people, and you'll only be put on one if your asthma is not sufficiently controlled and if the amount of attacks you get in a week obviously increase. So you get mild, moderate and severe asthma, and that's how we adjust whether you need 1 pump, 2 pumps and other medication.
Before we let you go, quickly, Dr. Darren Green, home remedies, what are some of the top ones?
Yeah, so firstly, I don't advocate any home remedies for asthma because it's a life-threatening condition and people die even with their pumps with them if they don't relieve that spasm quick enough. We see it in hospital where people die in ICU of asthma.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I thought was a little bit of a hoax first when I watched the movie was high doses of caffeine if you've got absolutely nothing else around. To help with relieving the bronchospasm. And I actually looked up on the theory about it, and it actually can make a minute difference to helping with a little bit with the bronchodilation effect. So,
Princess, cup of coffee, please.
Dr. Green, thank you very much. Always appreciate your time and expertise. I always feel so more enlightened after a conversation with a good doctor. But as always, as much as we discuss these things here, it is so important that you do consult your medical health professional, your doctor, in order to address any of these issues. But thank you very much to our callers as well for engaging in the topic, and we'll be doing this again next week, Tuesday.